The great hall of the Galactic Assembly had never been so quiet. Representatives from 47 species sat in their seats, and not one of them spoke. The holographic display at the center of the room showed a map of the galaxy. Red marks covered nearly half of it. Each red mark was a star system that had fallen to the Valorian Dominion. Ambassador Callan of the Therian people looked around the room. He saw fear on every face. The Compact had been fighting the Valorians for 30 years, and they were losing. Every battle ended the same way. The Valorians came with more ships, more soldiers, and more weapons. The Compact forces fought bravely, but bravery was not enough against an enemy that never stopped growing. High Commander Zorath stood at the front of the assembly. He was a Mordani, tall and covered in thick gray scales. His voice was deep and tired when he spoke. "We have lost the Kethany system," he said. 12 billion lives. Gone in 3 days. A wave of grief passed through the assembly. The Kethany were peaceful traders. They had no army. They had trusted the Compact to protect them, and the Compact had failed. "We need more ships," said a representative from the Volani cluster. "We need more weapons. We need something that can stop them." Zorath shook his head. "We've given everything we have. Our shipyards work day and night. Our soldiers fight until they die. It is not enough. The Valorians breed faster than we can build. They do not care how many of their own people die, as long as they win." Callan stood up. His people, the Therians, were small and thin with pale blue skin. They were not warriors. They were scholars and diplomats. But Callan had spent his life studying the old texts, the ancient records from before the Compact existed. He had read stories that most people had forgotten. "There may be another way," Callan said. Zorath looked at him with tired eyes. "Speak, Ambassador. We will consider any option." Callan took a deep breath. He knew that what he was about to say would sound foolish, but he had no other ideas left. "In the old text of my people, there are stories about a species from the far edge of the galaxy, a place so distant that no explorer has ever traveled there and returned. These stories speak of beings called humans." A few representatives laughed. Others looked confused. Zorath raised one scaled hand for silence. "Continue," he said. "The stories say that humans come from a death world," Callan said. "A planet with crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, violent storms, and predators in every environment. The texts describe humans as small but impossibly strong. Slow but never stopping. They heal from wounds that would kill any other species. They adapt to any condition. And most frightening of all, they are not afraid to die." Now the laughter spread through the assembly. A Mordani general stood up and pointed at Callan. "You want us to bet our survival on fairy tales? On monster stories we tell our children to make them behave?" Callan did not back down. "I want us to consider every possibility. The texts are old, but they are consistent across multiple cultures. The Therians, the Mordani, even the Valorians have ancient records that mention humans. Why would so many species invent the same story?" Zorath was silent for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "Even if these humans existed once, they are clearly gone now. No one has seen them in thousands of years. We cannot chase legends while our people die. We must focus on what is real." The assembly voted to increase military production by another 20%. It was all they could do. Callan returned to his seat and said nothing more. But he did not stop thinking about the old stories. 3 days later, Callan was on a transport ship heading back to Thyria when his communicator buzzed. It was a message from the Deep Space Observation Network. One of their long-range stations had detected something strange at the edge of gnome space. Ships, hundreds of ships, moving in a formation that no compact species used. Moving toward Therian space. Kellan felt his heart stop. Was it the Valorians? Had they finally decided to attack the Therian homeworld? He rushed to the bridge and demanded access to the sensor data. The captain, a young Therian named Sorrel, was already there. His hands were shaking. "Ambassador," Sorrel said, "these ships do not match any known design. They are not Valorian. They are not from the Compact. We have no record of anything like them." Kellen studied the images. The ships were angular and gray, built for function rather than beauty. They looked heavy, strong, like they were designed to take damage and keep fighting. "Try to contact them," Kellen said. Sorrel opened all communication channels and sent a standard greeting in every known language. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was speaking in a language that Kellen had only seen in the oldest texts, a language that had been dead for thousands of years. But the universal translator worked on it, and Kellen heard the words clearly. "This is Admiral Daniel Carter of the United Earth Navy. We received your distress call. It took us a long time to get here. We apologize for the delay." Kellen's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the floor of the bridge, staring at the communication screen. "Ambassador?" Sorrel asked. "What does this mean? Who are they?" Kellen looked up at the young captain with tears in his eyes. "They are humans," he said. "The legends were true, and they came to help us." On the screen, the human fleet continued its approach. There were more than 300 ships, all moving in perfect formation. And at the front of the fleet, the largest ship of all carried a name painted on its hull in bold white letters: Endurance. The news spread across the galaxy in hours. Strange ships had appeared near Therian space. Ships that did not belong to the Compact or the Valorians. Ships that claimed to be crewed by humans that most people did not believe it. Humans were stories. Humans were legends told to frighten children. Humans were not real, but the ships were very real. 327 vessels, ranging from small patrol craft to massive warships. They held position at the edge of Therian space and waited for someone to meet them. High Commander Zorath ordered the Compact fleet to stay back. He did not trust the newcomers. For all he knew, this was a trick by the Valorians. A new weapon designed to make the Compact lower its guard. Ambassador Kellen disagreed. He volunteered to lead the first contact mission himself. Zorath called him a fool, but he did not stop him. Kellen took a small diplomatic shuttle and flew toward the human fleet. His heart beat fast as he approached the largest ship, the one called Endurance. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull was covered in scars and patches, signs of battles fought and survived. This was not a ship built for display. This was a ship built for war. A docking bay opened, and Kellen guided his shuttle inside. When he stepped out, he found himself surrounded by humans for the first time in his life. They were shorter than he expected. Shorter than Mordani, shorter than Valorians. But there was something in the way they stood, the way they moved, that made Kellen nervous. They moved like predators, careful, aware, ready for anything. A woman stepped forward. She had brown skin and black hair tied back from her face. She wore a gray uniform with symbols on the shoulders that Kellen did not recognize. "Ambassador Kellen," she said. "I am Lieutenant Lisa Morgan. Welcome aboard the Endurance. Admiral Carter is waiting for you." Kellen followed her through the ship. He noticed many things. The corridors were wider than they needed to be. The walls were reinforced with extra metal. The lighting was dim compared to Therian ships. And everywhere he looked, he saw humans. Hundreds of them. Young and old, male and female, all going about their duties with quiet efficiency. They reached a large room at the center of the ship. Inside, a man stood looking at a star map. He was older than Lisa Morgan, with gray hair and deep lines on his face. When he turned around, Kellen saw eyes that had seen too many things. Hard eyes, but not cruel eyes. "Ambassador," the man said, "I am Daniel Carter. Thank you for coming." Kellen bowed his head. "Thank you for receiving me, Admiral. I must confess, until I saw your ships with my own eyes, I was not certain you were real." Carter smiled. It was a tired smile. "We get that a lot. Your distress signal reached Earth about 200 years ago. It took us this long to build a fleet capable of making the journey. We came as fast as we could." Kellen was stunned. 200 years? You traveled for 200 years to answer a call for help? Not exactly, Carter said. The journey only took about 30 years. But we needed time to prepare, to build the ships, to train the crews, to make sure that when we arrived, we could actually help. Lisa Morgan spoke up. "Admiral, perhaps we should explain the situation to the ambassador. He seems a bit overwhelmed." Carter nodded and gestured for Kellen to sit. Over the next hour, the humans explained everything. They told him about Earth, a planet that the Compact would classify as deadly. They described the gravity, which was nearly twice what Therians were used to. They talked about the weather, which included storms that could destroy entire cities. They mentioned the animals, creatures with claws and teeth designed for killing. Kellen listened with growing horror. How did your species survive on such a world? Carter shrugged. We adapted. We learned. We fought. And when we could not fight, we ran. When we could not run, we hid. And when we could not hide, we died. But some of us always survived. That is what humans do. We survive. Lisa Morgan pulled up images on a screen. She showed Kellen pictures of human history. Wars that killed millions. Plagues that wiped out half of continents. Natural disasters that reshaped the planet. Through all of it, humans kept going. We are not the strongest species, Lisa said. We are not the fastest or the smartest. But we do not give up. Ever. No matter what happens, we keep fighting until we win or until we are all dead. Kellen thought about the Compact. Thought about how species surrendered when the odds became too great. Thought about how leaders calculated acceptable losses and retreated when those numbers were reached. What are acceptable losses for humans? He asked. Carter looked at him with those hard eyes. There are no acceptable losses, Ambassador. Every person matters. Every life counts. That is why we fight. Not because we want to die, but because we cannot stand by and watch others die when we can do something about it. At that moment, an alarm sounded. Lisa Morgan rushed to a console and read the data coming in. Admiral, she said. Valorian scout fleet. 12 ships. They are heading straight for us. Carter stood up. How long? 20 minutes. Kellen felt fear grip his chest. 12 Valorian ships could destroy his shuttle in seconds. The human fleet was large, but he had no idea if they could fight. Carter saw the fear on his face. Ambassador, please return to the observation deck. You will be safe there. Lieutenant Morgan will escort you. What are you going to do? Kellen asked. Carter was already walking toward the door. He looked back over his shoulder. We are going to introduce ourselves to the Valorians, he said, and teach them that the myths were true. 20 minutes later, Kellen watched from the observation deck as the human fleet moved to meet the enemy. The Valorians came in fast, weapons charging. They fired first. The human ships did not dodge. They took the hits head on, and then they fired back. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, 11 Valorian ships were debris. One survived long enough to turn and run. Kellen stared at the destruction with his mouth open. Beside him, Lisa Morgan watched calmly. The Valorians will send more ships, she said. They always do. Are you not afraid? Kellen asked. Lisa Morgan smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We came here to fight, Ambassador. We have been preparing for this for 200 years. Let them come. We will be waiting." The Valorian Dominion did not believe the reports. One survivor from a scout fleet claimed that a new species had destroyed 11 ships in 4 minutes. The High Command laughed at him. They said he was a coward who abandoned his comrades and invented stories to cover his shame. They sent him to a prison colony and forgot about him. Then they sent a proper fleet to investigate. 50 warships under the command of Admiral Vex, one of the most decorated officers in the Dominion. Vex was confident. 50 ships could crush any enemy the galaxy had to offer. He was wrong. The humans met them at the border. System of Kellis Prime. This was a compact world under siege. 3 million Therian civilians were trapped on the surface, while Valorian ground forces moved in from the west. The compact fleet had tried to break through twice and failed both times. Admiral Carter brought 112 ships. He formed them into a wedge and drove straight at the Valorian line. Vex ordered his ships to concentrate fire on the lead vessel. Standard tactics. Destroy the command ship and the rest would fall apart. But the lead vessel was the Endurance. And the Endurance did not fall apart. The massive warship absorbed hit after hit. Its shields flickered and failed. Its armor melted and burned. But it kept coming. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet opened fire with weapons that the Valorians had never seen before. Within an hour, the Valorian fleet was scattered. Admiral Vex escaped with 7 ships. The rest were destroyed or captured, but the battle was not over. 3 million civilians still needed rescue, and Valorian ground forces still controlled half the planet. Admiral Carter looked at the tactical display. The Valorian army was moving through a region called the Burning Valley. It was a volcanic zone, full of poison gas, extreme heat, and unstable ground. The Therians had declared it impassable decades ago. The Valorians used it as a shield, knowing that no one would attack from that direction. Carter turned to Sergeant Kevin Brooks. Brooks was a big man with dark skin and a scar across his chin. He commanded the 1st Ground Assault Unit in the human fleet. "Can your people cross the Burning Valley?" Carter asked. Brooks studied the data. Temperature readings of over 50 degrees. Toxic atmosphere. Earthquakes every few hours. He nodded. "It will not be pleasant," he said. "But we can do it. How long?" 12 hours if we push hard. Maybe 10 if we get lucky." Carter gave the order. 2,000 human soldiers dropped from orbit in armored pods. They landed at the edge of the Burning Valley and started walking. The Therians watching from space did not understand. No living thing could survive in that environment for more than a few minutes. The Valorians certainly believed it was impossible. They had left only a small force guarding that side of their position. 12 hours later, Kevin Brooks and his soldiers emerged from the smoke and fire on the other side. Their armor was scorched and dented. Several of them had burns that would need treatment. 3 had died when the ground collapsed under them. But the rest were still on their feet, and they were angry. The Valorian guards did not even have time to call for help. Brooks and his team hit them fast and hard. They took the position in 20 minutes and opened a corridor for the Therian civilians to escape. The main Valorian force turned to meet this new threat. They expected to face a small raiding party. Instead, they found 2,000 humans who had just walked through hell and were ready for more. The ground battle lasted 6 hours. The Valorians fought well. They were bigger than humans, stronger than humans, and they had more soldiers. But they had never faced an enemy like this. Human soldiers took wounds that should have killed them and kept fighting. They worked in teams, covering each other, never leaving anyone behind. When one fell, another took their place. When their weapons ran out of power, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used their hands. A Valorian commander captured later tried to explain what he saw. He said the humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like animals, like the predators from the death world that spawned them. Every single one of them was willing to die if it meant killing one more enemy. By the end of the 6th hour, the Valorian army was broken. Those who could run, ran. Those who could not, surrendered. Kevin Brooks stood in the middle of a field full of bodies and called for medical teams. That night, the humans held funerals for their dead. The Therians watched from a distance, confused. They expected the victors to celebrate. Instead, they saw grief. They saw humans holding each other and crying. They saw Admiral Carter reading names from a list and saluting after each one. Ambassador Kellen approached Carter after the ceremony. "I do not understand," he said. "You won. Your enemy is destroyed. Why are you sad?" Carter looked at him with tired eyes. "Because victory means nothing if we lose ourselves in the process. Every person we lost was someone's friend, someone's family. They mattered. We will remember them forever." "But you must have known this would happen," Callan said. "You walked into a war zone. Casualties were inevitable. Knowing something will happen does not make it hurt less," Carter said. "We came here to help your people, Ambassador. We succeeded. 3 million Therians will live because of what we did today. But that does not bring back the ones we lost. It never does." The next day, High Commander Zorath arrived on Kelith Prime. He walked through the evacuation camps and saw human soldiers handing out food, treating injuries and playing with Therian children. He saw the same warriors who had crossed the burning valley, now building shelters for refugees. He found Carter standing near a temporary hospital. "I was wrong about you," Zorath said. "I called your people a myth, a legend. I did not believe you could help us." Carter shrugged. "We get that a lot." Zorath extended his hand in the human gesture he had learned. "The Galactic Compact formally requests the assistance of the United Earth Navy in our war against the Valorian Dominion. Will you fight beside us?" Carter took his hand and shook it firmly. "We will," he said. "But we have one condition." "Name it." "We fight as partners. Equals. We are not your weapons. We are not your shields. We are your allies. Treat us as such, and we will stand with you until the end." Zorath nodded. "Agreed." And so the alliance was formed. The myth had become real, and the Valorians were about to learn what it meant to fight against humanity. The war changed after the humans joined. For 30 years, the Valorian Dominion had advanced without stopping. They conquered system after system, never losing more than they could replace. The Compact learned to fear them. Now the Valorians learned to fear something else. Human tactics were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Where other species built defensive lines and waited for attacks, humans pushed forward. They struck at supply chains, communication networks, and command centers. They appeared where no one expected them and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Captain Chris Palmer led the most daring operation of the war. His mission was to destroy a Valorian command station deep in enemy territory. The station sat on a moon orbiting a gas giant. The only approach was through a volcanic field that spewed radiation and lava into space. The Compact called it suicide. Chris Palmer called it Tuesday. His team of 50 soldiers flew through the volcanic field in small craft, dodging eruptions and radiation bursts. They lost 2 ships on the way in. The rest landed on the moon and fought their way to the station. It took them 4 hours to reach the command center. When they did, Chris Palmer planted charges on every system he could find and blew the entire facility apart. The explosion was visible from 3 systems away. Valorian forces in the region lost coordination for 6 days. The Alliance used that time to liberate 4 worlds, but humans did not just fight. They also healed. Dr. Amy Torres was a medical officer on the Endurance. When she first met compact physicians, she was shocked by how little they knew about treating battlefield injuries. Their species had not fought serious wars in centuries. They had almost no experience with trauma medicine. Amy changed that. She set up training programs on every Allied ship. She taught doctors how to stop bleeding, how to remove shrapnel, how to treat burns and broken bones. She introduced the concept of triage, the practice of treating the most critical patients first instead of serving everyone in order. Some alien doctors were disturbed by human medical knowledge. One Therian surgeon asked Amy how humans had learned so much about healing wounds. Amy gave a sad smile. "Because we spent thousands of years causing them to each other," she said. "Every technique I know was developed because someone, somewhere, found a new way to hurt people. We learned to heal because we had to." The Therian did not know how to respond. Amy also worked with soldiers suffering from what humans called combat stress. This was another concept that confused the compact. They did not understand how minds could be injured by war. Amy explained that humans were not machines. They felt fear, guilt, and horror just like everyone else. The difference was that humans learned to carry those feelings and keep fighting anyway. "It is not that we do not feel," Amy said. "It is that we refuse to let our feelings stop us from doing what must be done. Later, when the fighting is over, we deal with the pain. But in the moment, we push it aside and focus on the mission." The Valorians could not understand this. They captured human prisoners and interrogated them, trying to learn the secret of human endurance. One officer, a brutal commander named Veth, spent weeks questioning a captured pilot named Rachel Green. Rachel had been shot down over a Valorian-controlled world. She was wounded, alone, and had no hope of rescue. Veth expected her to break quickly. Instead, she refused to give any useful information. No matter what he did, she just smiled at him and said nothing. After 3 weeks, Veth was desperate. He finally asked her directly, "Why do you not stop?" He demanded, "You are injured. You are starving. Your people have abandoned you. There is no reason to continue resisting. Tell me what I want to know, and your suffering will end." Rachel looked at him with calm eyes. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. Her left arm hung useless at her side. But her voice was steady. "You want to know why I do not stop?" she said. "Because somewhere out there, my friends are still fighting. And as long as they are fighting, I will not give up. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. You can kill me, but you cannot break me. I am human. This is what we do." Veth had her executed the next day. But before she died, Rachel managed to escape long enough to send a transmission. She had stolen the access codes for the Valorian defense network while Veth was too busy trying to break her spirit. The Alliance used those codes to disable an entire fleet 3 weeks later. Rachel Green became a legend. Human soldiers spoke her name before going into battle. The compact gave her their highest honor. And the Valorians finally started to understand what they were dealing with. The turning point came at the Battle of Vareth Prime. This was the second largest compact colony, home to 8 billion people. The Valorians had held it for 5 years. The Alliance assembled the largest fleet in history to take it back. The battle lasted 9 days. Human ships led every assault. Human soldiers fought in every ground campaign. When the Valorian defenses finally collapsed, it was a human pilot named Kevin Brooks who planted the Alliance flag on the Capitol building. That night, Ambassador Kellen walked through the ruined streets. He saw human soldiers everywhere. Some were carrying wounded civilians to medical stations. Others were distributing food and clean water. A group of them was clearing rubble to search for survivors. Kellen found Admiral Carter standing near a collapsed school. Human workers were carefully pulling children from the wreckage. Every time they found one alive, a cheer went up. Every time they found one dead, the workers stopped and said a quiet prayer before continuing. "I have watched you for months now," Kellen said. "I still do not understand you." Carter looked at him. "What do you mean? You are capable of such destruction. I saw your ships tear through the Valorian fleet. I saw your soldiers fight like demons in the streets. You are terrifying when you want to be." Kellen pointed at the workers rescuing children. "But then you do this. You risk your lives for people you have never met. You cry for strangers. You treat every death as a personal loss. How can the same species be so violent and so gentle?" Carter watched his people work for a long moment. Then he spoke. "That is the question, is it not? Humans have asked it for our entire existence. How can we be so cruel and so kind? How can we create such beauty and cause such horror?" He turned to face Kellen. "I do not have an answer, Ambassador. I only know that we are both things, the darkness and the light, the sword and the hand that heals. We choose every day which one to be. Today, we choose to help. Tomorrow, we may have to destroy. But we never forget that both choices are part of us." Kellen looked at the children being carried to safety. He thought about the stories his people had told about humans. Monsters from a death world. Killers without mercy. Creatures of nightmare. The stories had been wrong. Humans were not monsters. They were something far more complex. Something the galaxy had never seen before. And Kellen was glad they were on his side. The final battle came on a cold morning above the Valorian home world. 2 years of war had brought the Alliance to this moment. Every ship they had was gathered in orbit, waiting for the order to attack. The Valorian Dominion was broken, but not defeated. Their fleet was reduced to a fraction of its former strength. Their conquered territories had been liberated one by one. But they still controlled their home system, and they had been preparing its defenses for months. Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the Endurance and studied the tactical display. Orbital weapons platforms surrounded the planet. Ground-based cannons pointed at the sky. The entire population had been armed and ordered to fight to the last being dot. This would be the bloodiest battle of the war. Carter knew that. Everyone knew the dot. He picked up the communicator and opened a channel to the entire fleet. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, countless species all waiting for his words. "This is Admiral Carter," he said. "In a few hours, we will begin our final assault on the Valorian home world. Many of us will not survive. I will not lie to you about that. We are about to face the hardest fight of our lives." He paused and looked around the bridge. His crew watched him with steady eyes. They were afraid. They were always afraid before battle. But they were also ready. "I want you to understand something," Carter continued. "We did not come here for revenge. We did not come here to destroy the Valorians or wipe them from existence. We came here to end the war, to stop an empire that has caused suffering across the galaxy, to make sure that no one else has to live in fear." He thought about all the battles they had fought, all the friends they had lost, all the planets they had freed. The Valorians believe that strength means domination. They think that power gives them the right to take what they want and destroy anyone who resists. Today, we show them a different kind of strength. The strength to fight for others. The strength to sacrifice for something greater than ourselves. The strength to offer mercy even when we have been shown none. He closed his eyes for a moment. 200 years ago, a distress call reached Earth, a cry for help from people we had never met, people who were not even sure we existed. And we came, not because we wanted war, not because we wanted glory, but because somewhere out there, innocent people were dying, and we could not just sit and do nothing. He opened his eyes. That is who we are. That is what it means to be human. We do not abandon those who need us. We do not turn away from suffering. We stand up. We fight. And we never, ever give up. He looked at the display one more time. Today, we end this war. Today, we earn our peace. And today, we show the galaxy that the myths were not just stories. Humans are real. And we are here. The fleet began to move. The battle for the Valorian homeworld lasted 18 hours. It was exactly as brutal as Carter had predicted. Alliance ships fell by the hundreds. Human soldiers died by the thousands. Every orbital platform had to be destroyed one by one. Every ground defense had to be silenced with blood. A young pilot named Nathan Cole saw his squadron cut to pieces by Valorian fighters. He was the last one left, and he had one torpedo remaining. A ground cannon was preventing the landing forces from reaching the surface. Nathan could destroy it, but his ship had taken too much damage. He would never survive the run. He made the run anyway. His ship exploded against the cannon, and both were destroyed together. The landing zone opened. 40,000 soldiers poured onto the surface. By sunset, the Valorian capital was surrounded. Their leadership huddled in a bunker, waiting for the humans to storm in and kill them. They expected no mercy. They would have shown none themselves. Admiral Carter walked into the bunker alone. He was unarmed. The Valorian leaders stared at him in confusion. "I am here to accept your surrender," Carter said. The Valorian High Commander, a massive creature named Vex, stepped forward. He had been the one who led the fleet against humanity at Calith Prime. He had lost almost everything that day. "You will kill us all," Vex said. "You should kill us all. We would have done the same to you." Carter shook his head. "I am not here to kill you. I am here to end the war." "Why?" Vex demanded. "We attacked your allies. We bombed civilian populations. We murdered your prisoners. Why would you show us mercy?" Carter was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Because mercy is the only way to break the cycle. If we destroy you, someone else will rise to take your place. If we torture you, your children will grow up hating us. Violence only creates more violence. The only way to truly win is to stop fighting and start building." He extended his hand. "Surrender. Accept responsibility for what you have done. Pay reparations to the people you have hurt. And in time, maybe a long time, you can rejoin the galactic community. Not as conquerors, but as neighbors." Vex stared at the hand. He did not understand this strange species. He had spent his whole life believing the power was everything, that the strong had the right to rule the weak. And now a creature half his size, from a planet that should have killed them all, was offering him a second chance. He took the hand. The war ended that day. The Valorian Dominion was dissolved. Their fleets were disarmed. Their leaders faced trials for their crimes. But they were not exterminated. They were not enslaved. They were given the chance to be something better. 1 year later, Ambassador Callan stood at a ceremony on the Therian homeworld. The Galactic Compact had been reorganized into the Galactic Union. Humans were now full members, with representatives on every council. The old legends had been replaced by reality. Admiral Carter was there. He had retired from the military and now served as humanities. First ambassador to the Union. He looked tired but peaceful. Kellan approached him after the ceremony. "I have a question. That has bothered me since we first met," Callan said. "Why did you come? You traveled for decades to answer a distress call from strangers. You fought and died for people you had never met. Why?" Carter smiled. It was a different smile than the one he wore in battle. Softer, more human. "Because that is what we do," he said. "When we were alone on Earth, we learned that the only way to survive was to help each other. Tribes that worked together lived. Tribes that fought alone died. It is built into us now. We cannot see someone in trouble and walk away. It feels wrong. He looked up at the stars. When we finally reached the galaxy and learned that we were not alone, we found the same lesson waiting for us. Work together or die apart. So we answered your call. Because you needed help. And because helping is what makes us human. Kellen thought about all the species who had dismissed humans as myths. All the commanders who had laughed at the stories. All the enemies who had underestimated these strange creatures from a death world. They had all been wrong. Humans were not monsters. They were not savages. They were not the terrifying legends that children feared. They were simply people who refused to give up. People who fought for strangers. People who offered mercy to enemies. People who crossed the galaxy because someone, somewhere, needed help. And now they were here to stay. The myth had ended. The truth had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.